Hello and welcome to the show. I am here on GTA 5 with some more downhill chaos with some of the Ill-Gotten Gains Part 2 DLC cars. Up first, it is the Brawler, and let's face it, if any vehicle should be well suited to this kind of course, it should be this. Proved to be very, very quick when I put it up against the army, so I was expecting some fairly decent things from this vehicle. There is one very, very big downside to this car. While yes, it is very fast, the brakes are atrocious. It does not get stopped very well at all. Incredibly quick down there. It's up to 80 miles an hour down that part of the course, but I can't stop it. And when you can't stop it at that corner, you kind of hit the bank sort of rocks and so on, and then we tumble and we flip and we sort of come to a standstill halfway down the mountain. The brakes are very, very difficult things to work with for this vehicle. The Curse of the Hikers is back as... instantly hit the hikers an instant karma. I tried to get the thing back under control, couldn't do it. Only takes little changes of direction, little tiny course changes, and you plummet off the side of the mountain. And as you saw as I was plummeting down the mountain, it just doesn't stop. There is no way, like, your normal car goes off like that. Yes, it is a very steep hill, but a normal car will at least start to try to slow down. This, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I may have carried a little bit too much speed into this final section. That was no fault of the brakes of the car. That was just me trying to be a little bit too brave over there. And then once it's gone wrong, yeah, it tends to go wrong quite spectacularly. If it is going wrong, yeah, again, we come to a rest eventually. I don't know why it is that the brakes are terrible in this car. It does handle really well. I love the way this car drives around the turns. Deals with the hairpin very, very nicely. And again, I'm trying to slow it down, hit the banking on the first bit, hit the banking on the second bit. We're twisting, just about get it all under control, and then we go for a spin. Very peculiar. I think it's sort of a combination of the bumps at that turn, and because it's a pretty fast corner, probably one of the fastest corners on the track. The car was spinning out there, which is peculiar, being a four-wheel drive vehicle. I haven't had that problem anywhere else. Also, at the second to last corner, they had a tendency to go up onto two wheels. Again, it's not as bad as some of the vehicles. Often the high-riding cars, like the Rebel, the sort of Sand King, the Merryweather Messer, them things with such high ride height, such high centre of mass, they do like to fall over. This does on a couple of occasions. You do have to be a bit careful. Not as bad as the cars I mentioned, but you do still have to be aware of it. Again, having issues with the braking in a very similar thing. Hit the bump, and the Brawler goes round in a circle. It's, yeah, I wasn't quite expecting that from this car, but there's just one corner that it had that problem on. It wasn't too bad though, it didn't take too long to get a decent run out of this vehicle. As I said, this is a lovely car to drive. If the brakes were as good as sort of you kind of expect from an off-road racing car, this thing could well be the best overall vehicle. On a course like this, it is a little bit problematic, having slightly dodgy brakes, but even with them, this is still a very, very fast car. And it's a very fun car to drive. Really good handling. I do quite like this vehicle. Again, around the hairpin, absolutely no problems. Does lift up on two wheels a little bit, but through there. But unless you sort of really clip the inside, almost try and jump the hairpin, you're not going to have a problem with rolling it there. Being a little bit slower through here, being a little bit more careful with the bumps, so that the vehicle doesn't sort of get spun around. I mean, on the landing of the jumps, this does do very, very well. It's not bouncing back up into the air and losing control through any of these jumps, which is nice to see. That is a problem I've been having with a few vehicles, but there's no problem with this. It stays firmly planted on the road. Again, though, there's a little bit of two-wheeled action going on as we drive down the escape road. You've got to really make sure you slow it down for this final corner. Even on this run, it's up onto two wheels yet again, and then up towards the finish line, and the Brawler has completed the course as you would expect. Pretty damn fast vehicle. Definitely deals with the bumps incredibly well. No complaints from that. It's just getting it stopped for the corners. The brakes are absolutely atrocious. I'm not sure why it is, but yeah, really trying to get this car slowed down for some of the tighter turns, it struggles. You've got to brake a lot earlier than you expect with this car, but yeah, aside from that, very, very quick. Up next, we have got the T20. Well, another one of the supercars. This one essentially a McLaren P1. And I hadn't really driven it until doing this. It is four-wheel drive, makes a fantastic flamethrower at the back. This could well be one of the fastest cars, if not the fastest car, in GTA 5. Four-wheel drive gives it phenomenal acceleration, it has fantastic brakes, and there is an awful lot of grip in this car through the turns. Okay, it's not quite motorbike levels of grip. It's not quite going to take as much speed as the Enduro did around the course, or around some of the corners anyway. But the acceleration in between the corners is absolutely astounding. It is a supercar though, of course. Ride height is a small bit of an issue. I tried to carry a lot of speed around there, and I just asked too much of the car, basically. Trying to carry the speed in the way that you'd carry a speed with a motorbike around there, you just can't quite do it with the car. Got a little bit out of shape and just probably end up pointing in the wrong direction. Ride height could be a little bit of a pain, being a little bit low to the ground. Got carried away. Just too much speed in the T20 around that particular turn as we go sliding off the mountain. I decided then to see how good this car was at sort of climbing back up the roads. It's pretty good. That's a sheer rock face that the car has climbed with ease. It's like that Icelandic Formula off-road. It's really, it's just so much power sort of instantly from the four-wheel drive. It absolutely flies its way up the sort of the very steep hillsides. As I said about the ride height, you could get in trouble with that. I've taken various lines through that particular part of the course. I've never had a car do that. Sort of the front dug in and we went and flipped and twisted around. Yeah, I've never seen it. Seen a car do that. We could get it on two wheels if we really wanted to, but it was much more stable than a lot of the vehicles that I've driven. But again, it was a case of trying to carry a bit too much speed and then finding some bumps in a supercar that sees us get turned around. I thought we beached it, not quite, did manage to get it off the rocks. But yeah, too much speed and a few bumps and the supercar would have issues. Got it a little bit wrong on the jump, managed to save it after the jump, but couldn't quite get it sorted out for the next corner. And again, we're going for, if you have a crash with this vehicle, it's going to be a big crash because you are going so fast. Is basically the way that it works. I do quite like this car. Again, it's another one very, very good vehicle to drive. It's down here. Hairpin surprisingly had a few more issues getting it turned around the hairpin than I did with the Brawler. I think it's just because I was going faster into it that I was having a few scary moments. I've never fallen off the course in that particular manner. I just got the car, it's just got too sideways and couldn't recover it, and then we've fallen off down a completely new part of the hill, and then we point car at sheer cliff and car climbs. It really is quite remarkable just how powerful and how quick this thing is. It can climb up just about anything. That's nearly a solid rock face from a standstill, and it was fine. Again, playing it very risky. I had a lot of trouble with this particular area, with the bumps and the speed that this car was getting up to. That if you got things a little bit wrong, yeah, you had a big off. It took a little bit of time to get a clean run out of this car, primarily because it is just so fast. I wanted to get a really very, very quick run out of this vehicle, so you had to really push the car. I mean, you could get some serious speed out of this one. So yeah, it took a little bit of time. Because it is seriously quick. It's getting up towards the 80 miles an hour into that turn. The problem is that the bumps were actually causing a bit of issue with this car. You were hitting the first bump there so fast, it was actually lifted up in the air, and then you couldn't get any more speed coming into the corner. But the second you get out, even out of this hairpin, for example, just the acceleration from this car is phenomenal. Again, it's up to 80 miles an hour down this part, and it's no surprise I'm having issues with the bumps and so on when you're hitting them at these sort of speeds with a low-slung supercar. It gets sort of chucked sideways, but there is enough grip in the car to sort of recover it. Actually, outbrake myself a tiny little bit through there. Managed to get the jump nice and sorted though and carry some speed through the turns up towards the second jump. Always a bit of a concern heading for this one, but the car, it does bounce up a little bit off the landing. Not quite as nice as the Brawler, but still very, very quick. And then we're weaving our way down this little side road. Really got to slow it down. The bumps are horrible through the second to last corner for a supercar. It can't be flat out through this final turn. You do have to have a little lift. That's just how fast it is. And across the line, we spin through the trees, and the T20 is across the line. Yeah, this, I have no doubt, is probably the fastest sort of race car almost in GTA 5. ridiculously far. The way it can climb up the mountain is mighty impressive. The brakes are fantastic, huge amount of grip. Of course, if you are going off-roading with it, you've got to be careful with a low-slung supercar. Bumps are going to cause problems, that's not a surprise, but yeah, it is bloody fast. And our final vehicle today is the Chino. Reminds me very much of the Virgo, same sort of style of classic American car. This one can have a wheelie bar on it, so I went for a wheelie bar. And the air intake at the front. Now, the two vehicles that went before this were both, well, one was an off-road racing car, the other was a very fast supercar. And now we've gone to sort of a classic American car. It's not as quick. It's nowhere near as quick. Sort of jumping in and driving this, it feels so sluggish compared to the vehicles that I was driving before. But it wasn't actually that bad to drive. I tried to. After running off the rock face, I thought I could get away with carrying the speed. I'd slightly forgotten having been driving the T20. I thought, oh yeah, we're fine, we're bouncing off the rock face, but I can keep the speed. No, you can't. You don't have the grip in this thing to carry that sort of speed, and ended up going off the course, having a little bit of problem across the first of the bigger jumps there. And again, just that one little issue sort of throws you out of position, and then that can cause you a big accident later down the line. So one corner being slightly out of position means the next one you're slightly out of position, and on a track like this where it's very narrow, that's all it takes to have a rather big off. But I actually think the wheelie bar helped slightly with this car. It kind of stopped it rolling over. It kind of caught on things in some of these. I honestly think it actually helped sort of calm the crashes down. Again, turn one, I tried to avoid the hiker. Don't really want to hit the hikers because it will throw the car slightly out of position, so I was trying to avoid them, and then I forgot that the brakes in this thing aren't amazing either. Ran a bit too wide into turn one, clipping the rock on the outside of turn one. You can get away with it sometimes, but this is how it normally ends up if things go wide at turn one. But it really didn't take me particularly long to get a clean run out of the Chino. It's just easy to drive down here. In all honesty, there's the hikers. I'm not sure if I hit them or if they dived out of the way. Either way, it was incredibly close, jumping past them. Yeah, this thing was just easy to drive. No, it doesn't have the speed of the supercars or the off-road racing vehicles, but it's just easy. It's easy to get it down the course. It deals with the bumps all very well. The brakes, okay, they're not as amazing as the T20s, but they are very good. They're better than the Brawlers, I think, at least. Or I certainly felt like it driving down here. So getting it stopped from lower speeds. I mean, what were we doing? 80 miles an hour down here in the T20. We're only doing 60 in this. So sort of keeping this thing under control. Having gone from the two previous cars that were bonkers to driving this, yeah, it was just nothing, no major problems really with this car. Yeah, it's not got the power, it's not got the speed of some of the other vehicles. But even when at that time again, I wasn't particularly amazingly positioned over that first jump. But the car could deal with it. It could sort itself out without too many problems. And again, we're up onto two wheels, getting a little bit scary on the landing of that jump. Somehow I managed to get away with it. Again, all three of these vehicles have been pretty good with the landings of the jumps. They haven't bounced up too much into the air and sort of you lose all control of the vehicle. It was, yeah, relatively calm the entire way around. A little bit scary towards the end, but yeah, I have to say I was quite impressed with the Chino. It was a very tough act to follow, following the supercar and so on. But then we probably managed to not. The supercar was climbing up vertical hills almost, and this gets stumped by a small hill. It's I don't think the wheelie bar helped with that particular bit, but yeah, you see the power sort of difference between them. I have to say I was quite impressed. I was quite impressed with this vehicle. A nice, solid off-road car, but of course, you know, it's never going to have the speed, never going to have the power of the top vehicles, but certainly an impressive car to drive. On to the times, and it is no surprise to see the T20 go into third, fastest of the cars. 1:19.0 is very quick. Down Chiliad. Yes, the bikes are some 8 seconds quicker, but motorbikes have silly grip, so that's a quick time from the T20. The Brawler is also very fast down here. just beats out the Insurgent. A 121.5 from that car. With better brakes, that could probably challenge the T20. If that had the same brakes as the T20, or just had sensible brakes, that thing is monstrously fast. But the brakes really do let it down. And the Chino is still a decent time. A 29.5 is exactly the same time as the Rebel Technical, and only 0.1 of a second slower than the Casco, only half a second behind a Guardian. That's a good time from the Chino. It's half a second quicker than the Virgo as well. So yeah, it's a respectable car. Okay, maybe not quite as impressive as the supercars and the off-road racing cars, but yeah, I quite like it. I have to say. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. The other cars from this DLC will be going down at Chiliad next week. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.